Hi, I'm Jason Belinkie, CEO of Athletes for Hope. Thanks for being here for episode 2 of our financial literacy series with Thrivent. This episode is all about budgeting, something every athlete has to figure out sooner or later. If you haven't seen episode 1, which covers financial literacy 101, I definitely encourage you to check it out. You'll hear from 3 current student athletes from LSU, Southern, and Howard asking real, honest questions, and from Thrivent's Bjorn Larson, who helps make budgeting feel a lot more manageable. Let's dive in.
Well, welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Athlete Financial Literacy Series presented by Athletes for Hope and Thrivent. I am Bjorn Larson, Director of Financial Education at Thrivent. Today we're going to talk about budgeting, how to build a budget, how to stick to a budget, and how to adjust a budget that supports your goals on and off the field. A budget is simply a plan for how you'll use your money, and really it's the cornerstone of financial well-being because it helps you to stay in control, reduce your stress, and make intentional choices. Now, if you have not heard of Thrivent, we are a purpose-based organization that's here to help you and people like you build financial confidence and live with purpose. We believe that when you manage your money well, you can enjoy life today and create security for tomorrow. And we're so excited to partner with Athletes for Hope, who reminds us often that time is often the most valuable resource that you can give. But when you're able to also give financially and do it wisely, it can make your impact even greater. So we are really excited for this series and super excited to connect with my new friends here. And I'm just going to turn it over to you guys to introduce yourselves. Cleese, do you want to get us started and just tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Khalees Armstrong, and I'm a current senior at Howard University, and I run track and field, and I'm actually from Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. Thank you. Taylor?
Yeah, I'm Taylor Riley. I am a senior on the LSU women's golf team, and I'm from San Diego, California.
Nice. Great. And Sanaa?
Hey guys, my name is Sanaa Doss. I'm a senior at Southern University, and I'm on the women's soccer team, and I'm from Millville, New Jersey.
Awesome. Can't wait to chat with you guys today. So when you hear the word budget, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And let's keep this kid friendly, okay, in your response. Anybody want to jump in?
I can go first. When I think of budgeting, I would pretty much say prioritizing. Just, picking what's the most important in my budget. What are the things that I need to put my money towards first, and making sure I keep those things first. So for me, it would be like groceries or like gas for my car, things like that. So I would say like prioritizing.
Yeah, I love that. Like realizing you can't do it all. So you've got to figure out what's the most important and kind of putting those in the right order. That's great. Anybody else have something to say on that?
I was going to add, I think of saving for the future and thinking about the future. I think with budgeting, the most important thing is just making sure that whatever I have is going to last me a long time. So definitely prioritizing for the future and understanding the difference between like short-term and long-term goals I want for my budget.
Yeah, I love that you're thinking about that already, thinking about the future self, the future you, and the fact that you really do need to set aside some money, and you can take advantage of time right now, the more you put aside, but also need some for today and your expenses today too. And so just figuring out how to order those and how much to put in each category.
Yeah, I really agree with both of those. Those were really good statements. I kind of just think planning smartly, and that kind of falls into what y'all both said about prioritizing for the future, but then also taking care of yourself now. But yeah, I definitely think about future savings money-wise when I think about budgeting.
Those are great. I love that you guys are thinking about that, and just the recognition that we can't do it all. I mean, it sort of sometimes feels like that, or maybe it's easy to just keep adding things, but there's only sort of so much that we have available, and we've got to we have to pick and choose what makes the most sense for us. Maybe just one other question for you guys. Is there anything that you wish you would have learned about budgeting sooner?
I guess I'll go. I would say the importance of saving, like however what you get your income, whatever you spend it on, the importance of like putting some aside each check or however you get your income, like saving some just in case there is something unexpected that comes and you need to spend more than what you thought or what you had planned out to spend initially. You have something saved up from previous paychecks, like, okay, I still have money to spend on my groceries, on gas, on getting from place to place because I saved money. So I would say like the importance of putting aside money so you can have more for later.
Yeah, I love that. Anybody else have anything that you wish you would have learned?
I would say like the most important thing or what I really think about is I wish I knew you don't have to get it right every single time. Like it's kind of trial and error with budgeting. Sometimes you're gonna have to increase or decrease, the amount of money you want to save. And it's okay if like you're over budget at sometimes, as long as you kind of figure out where you went wrong and kind of fix it from there.
I love that. That's such a great point that things change, life changes, priorities change, values change, expenses change. And so as you get through school and get into maybe a job or career or whatever that looks like for you guys, it definitely will have to be a constant trial and error. And I can just speak from experience. I've had to change our budget a number of times throughout the years as we have more kids and as jobs have changed and we've changed where we live and all the different things. So I love that you have that mentality of adjusting and tweaking. It's really good. Awesome. Well, I think you guys had maybe a few questions for me. We wanted to make sure that there were real questions that athletes have. And so we're going to kind of turn the tables here. And I think you guys are going to jump in with a few questions for me. So take it away.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll start off. So my first question would be, how do I actually start creating a budget that makes sense for me?
Yeah, this is a pretty common question, and definitely one to sort of follow a specific stepped process here. So here's the first thing I would say: most people don't know where their money is going, and so, or sometimes they don't even know how much is coming in exactly. And so you oftentimes will have to take a step back and look at maybe like the last month or the last couple of months just to get a general idea on where is everything going. And if you take this step, you will be different than most Americans. Most Americans never do this. They just want to get to it someday, and that day never comes, and then they just react to their finances all the time. So I love, like the three of you both said, you want to plan ahead and save for the future. So this is a really practical way to help yourself do that. So track your income and expenses. I would even recommend looking back maybe 3 months or 6 months just to get a better sense of what is actually happening. Then you want to split up your expenses into two different types. You've got fixed expenses, which are things that will really never change every month. Maybe that's, rent or food or different things that or you have a pretty good ballpark of what that's going to be. And then there are variable expenses, things that you have more control over, like, dining out with friends or going on a vacation or whatever that you have more of a choice on. It's very important to separate those out because you want to make sure that you've got two different buckets. The fixed ones are the ones that are going to have to be done every month, and variable is where you can make the adjustment. Then it's important, I think, to take a step back and think about your goals because, like you all said, you're thinking about the future. And if you don't set any goals for the future, you're going to be way too tempted to just spend everything that comes in or even more than what comes in and just work yourself into a debt hole that you don't want to be in. So setting goals and then putting some of that money into those goals as an expense. That's a very key thing. So making savings an expense so that every month you're putting money toward that goal. Oftentimes people have spending leaks. I can vouch for that. You get to the end of the month and you're like, where did it all go? I thought I had $500 or $100 or whatever it is left over and it's gone. And so that's the adjusting part. You gotta reflect and maybe track it for a month after you look back and see what really happened and make adjustments and change what you're doing each month. One practical example in my life is that because we're coming into the holiday season, I have 4 kids and I have to put more money into our gift giving budget this month because we're going to be buying presents for my kids. So setting aside more there means I have to reduce some other categories, and I've made that adjustment on my side. So it's sort of looking back and looking ahead and right sizing and adjusting, like you guys already brought up, that you have to do over time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I'll go next. So you kind of touched on it when you were answering the previous question. What would you say is the best way to track my spending when I have a variable expense or like unexpected things that are coming up?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's really hard when things are so variable. Like if your income is variable, if your expenses are variable. So one thing you can do to kind of help yourself is you can base your budget on your lowest expected income every month. Or if you're getting like a lump sum or some sort of whatever it is that's variable, you can put that in an account and then you can pay yourself like a salary, like a job almost out of that. That's an amount that you know. And what that helps you to do is it may, if you do it on the lowest income you could have, it builds in some cushion. And or if you take out a lump sum, the same amount every time, then it just helps you to stay on track. And there that way, when there are months that expenses are higher, maybe you pull a little extra, but when they were lower, you can put some money back into your bigger sort of savings account. It's also important, I believe, and I do it personally. I do track every dollar. Some people do not want to do that, but it's sort of like I wear like a Fitbit. If you're not tracking your health, if you're not tracking like what you're eating or how much you're exercising or whatever, you're never really going to know exactly what's going on. You're going to just sort of feel like you're tired or feel like you didn't exercise much or feel like whatever. And the feel likes don't really help you to make any good decisions because you're not actually basing it off of the exact data that you have. So you can do this yourself manually, or you can use some apps that will do this for you. And it's just important to track it over time so that you can see the trends. You can see what's actually happening and then base your decisions off of actual information that's helpful. I think it's also smart to build in a category for unexpected expenses, sort of like in your emergency fund, but in finances, like you can expect the unexpected. I've had a lot of unexpected things happen, especially with kids, but I mean, in anybody's life, there's something that happens that you just did not foresee or you forgot about or whatever. It's really smart to build in just a little extra cushion so that when that happens, you've got the money to cover it. And then just like reviewing maybe bigger spending months or bigger spending weeks, or maybe even just like taking one small moment each week just to look ahead and think about what's coming up and think about what you've got. Again, most people do not do this. They just react to life every day, and that gets them into a lot of debt. And so if you can get ahead of it, even just by a few days, you can do a little bit better planning and set yourself up for success to help your future self, like you guys talked about earlier.
Thank you.
Yeah. Talking about like our future selves, and that was kind of what we all brought beginning. How can I balance saving for the future while still enjoying my money right now?
Yeah. Wow. What a deep question this is. Lots of different ways I could answer this. I would say this one is going to always be there for you, and one that you're going to have to wrestle with for the rest of your life. I think the most important thing is figure out what are your values, and anyone else that's sort of a part of your financial life, whether now or in the future, work hard to get on the same page and figure out the things that are most important to you, and then right size your budget to think about yourself as like an investor of money. Like you get a certain amount every month and you're investing that into the things that matter the most to you. And you want to invest more money in the things that have a higher like return on investment for your life. So if it's a higher value, ideally you want to put more money toward that. So if you love going on vacations, try to just pack that account full of money so you can go on a lot of vacations. But that also means that you have to maybe downsize some other areas because they're not as valuable. You maybe still have to pay them if they're expenses. And so you just have to kind of adjust that investment to make sure that you're putting money toward the things that matter the most. that can help you kind of get around the balancing act that we all go through of like, how much should I spend today versus in the future? But I think realistically, as you set financial goals, it's good to reward yourself too, especially if they're longer term goals. Like if you're trying to save a down payment for a house, or you're trying to pay off student loans, or you're trying to, I don't know, save for retirement. Like these are like multi-year, maybe multi-decade goals, which are not very fun to save for. Let's just be honest. And so maybe create some milestones so that when you hit those, you celebrate. So that you just stick with it. Just like you guys are athletes, like just like you accomplish a athletic goal, celebrate, take the moment to reflect and go like, this is awesome. I did such a good job. And I'm really proud of this effort and experience that I had. Let's go out to dinner. Let's throw a party. Let's have some friends over, whatever it is. Making sure that you're acknowledging that along the way. It's a great way to reward yourself. You can also use a methodology that we use at Thrivent, the 50-30-20 rule. So 50% of your income goes toward needs or like your fixed expenses. 30% goes towards your wants or like the variable expenses that we talked about. And then 20% goes towards your savings. And savings can also mean like debt pay down as well, if you have that. So that's one way just to make sure that you put some money aside for the future, and then you identify a bucket of money that's for today.
I really like that way you or that example you gave of ways to save money. Do you have any specific tools or methods that you use personally, or just ones that would work best?
Yeah, I as a financial coach, I've worked with a lot of different people that have a lot of different styles, and I think the most important thing is to find something that works. So if literally it works for you to take a sheet of paper and write down all your categories and like hand write down what you spend, go for it. That's the best method. Some people, they like spreadsheets. And I used to do this. I used to have a Google sheet on my phone, and I would have my budget in there, and I would go in every time and like go into the cell and do like minus 50 or, I would actually track every single dollar. Pretty tedious, but some people like that. I use a free app called Good Budget, where it's like a digital envelope system. And my wife and I both have access to that. And we actually have to manually enter every expense. So again, some people hear that and they're like, you're crazy, man. But that works for us. Also, there are apps that you can pay for, like Monarch, and then your bank or credit union might have an app where it tracks it automatically for you. The most important thing is just that it's being tracked and that you're looking at it regularly. And so if you can do it yourself, great. If you are never going to do it yourself, then don't use that method. Do something automatic. We also have a worksheet, the Thrivent budget worksheet, that will be available to anyone listening that you can use to get started. And there's just lots of different kind of other tools that are out there. But the most important thing is to figure out like what kind of budgeter are you? And then what of those methods works the best for you?
And I have another question. So in your answers to like the questions that we've had, you've given us like tips and tricks and even some strategies on how to budget. What do you say are some common budgeting mistakes that young athletes or even young professionals make when trying to budget?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I see athletes sort of making a mistake on is the what I like to call the I can afford that's. And what I mean by that is it's all these little things that I can afford. And I struggle with this too. Like dining out with my family, or I take my kids to the dollar store, or whatever it is. It's these small amounts of money that in the decision do not seem significant, because it's like, oh, like when I compare that to what I make, like, of course I can afford that. Like, come on, I can dine out every night. But if you add that all up every month and see how much that equates to, it can be rather shocking. So the I can afford that can really mess up a budget if you're not careful. And so you may need to break down some of the categories into like daily amounts, or if it's like a dining out budget, you may need to break it down into like how many times could you go out for that budget amount, just to help yourself and remind yourself that like at least money doesn't grow on trees for me. Maybe it grows on trees for you guys, but if it doesn't grow on trees for you, then you have a limit to what you can spend. And breaking things down into like a daily amount you can spend, or into like a weekly amount, or just some way to help yourself or trick yourself to stay on track is super important. The other thing that oftentimes messes with people are the irregular expenses that come. So things like if you have a car, like car insurance, like you only pay that once or twice a year. Once you like own a home, like homeowners insurance or taxes or different like big chunks of money, even taxes, to be honest, during tax time, if you owe for that, big chunks of money that come that need to be paid in a short amount of time that are not part of like your weekly or monthly spending. One way to get around that is to set up a separate savings account and estimate what that's going to be. And again, make that an expense and just put that money aside and you're golden, because when you get to that point, you've got the cash saved and you can just pay the bill and you don't even have to think about it again. I have tried to do that in the past, and I didn't actually put the money into the savings account, and I got a huge bill and I was pretty stressed. So I changed it immediately and opened up an account and started socking money away. And the next year, didn't even have to blink. Just had the money and was able to pay for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Like this is a part of our budget I feel like we haven't hit on yet, but if I wanted to include like giving back or supporting causes other than just like what I need in my life, what's the smartest way to plan for that?
Yeah, well, you probably have heard the quote, what gets measured gets managed. And if you don't build in giving to your regular budget like an expense, you probably won't do it. I mean, you might do it one-off, but you probably won't do it regularly. So same methodology applies here. I would say, think about what you care about and what, again, if there's anyone else that's sort of involved in your finances cares about, and work with organizations that are like-minded for you. And I would say, I'd even recommend that you find organizations where you can be involved beyond just the money. That you like check in with the person that you're giving to, or you get to go serve at the organization if you're really passionate about it. But like figure out the ones that really stand out to you and then build that line item into your budget so that there's a certain amount, it just goes out automatically. You probably need to even have technology help you do this, because it's hard to part with our money. I mean, when we get the money and we see it sitting there and it's a lot, it's hard to part with it. So that's why cash, like working off cash, can actually work really well for people, because you're actually giving money away and you feel something. It's tangible. So this is a way to kind of help yourself by automating your giving and making sure that it's going toward the places that have the highest value to you, because it'll be more meaningful. Just like you're the investor, you're investing money in the things that matter the most to you. Anything else that you guys have at all? You know, one other question that I got was just something around how often should you like review your budget? How often should you update it? Like, I think we've sort of touched on that a little bit, but I think one way to answer that would be just to take a look at it once a month. It's probably pretty good practice to just set aside like an hour a month to look at your finances, look back, see what happened, what were the surprises, and look ahead and figure out and try to think through, like, do I have anything big coming up this month? And if you just, again, if I'm serious, if you just pause for an hour a month, you will probably be different than almost half of Americans who just do not do this. They don't make the time. It's not important. And guessing that a lot of those people are not really saving a lot ahead because they're just reacting to their financial life. So every month, great practice. If you can just build in that habit, it's a really good strategy. And then, like you said earlier, if you are reflecting and things are not working, just have the freedom and the flexibility to adjust. You're doing your own budget. No one is forcing you to do this. Like, no one is doing this but you, and no one's going to benefit from it but you. So feel the freedom to adjust that. And probably the best piece of advice I can give you is just make sure you build in some cushion, because there are going to be unexpected things that are going to come up. And you are definitely going to want to have some money set aside for those things, because you just will reduce your stress so much more than what you ever even expected. Anything else, guys, that you're thinking?
I don't think so, no.
All right. Well, this has been so fun today. I hope you got some good practical takeaways. That's the hope here. Just to highlight a couple of things here. So first of all, budgeting doesn't need to be complicated. I hope you heard that today. I think if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, you just like said so many different tips, just pick one thing that you can do. Just start with one category. You know, like you don't have to develop your whole budget. Just start with one category and try to figure out and forecast how much you might need for the month, or look back and see how much you've actually spent. Again, most people don't do this. So just don't make it complicated. Break it down into bite-sized chunks and take a step in the right direction. It'll help you feel more in control. It'll build confidence, and then you'll be more likely to keep going. You also want to understand kind of exactly what's happening financially. So again, don't have to look at everything. Just start with one thing, and that will compound over time, like literally and figuratively, to help you change your financial life. And then I hope your future self will be very excited about your current self and how well you planned ahead. And I loved hearing your guys' goals of putting money aside and making sure that you're not just thinking about today, but you're thinking about tomorrow and into the future. And I think anyone listening, you probably have time on your side. And so use time to your advantage and save money for the future, because you'll have just more choices by having that money set aside. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Again, I'm Bjorn Larson from Thrivent, the Director of Financial Education, and it's been such a great conversation with Athletes for Hope and our athletes here talking about budgeting. We hope that you are motivated to take a step in the right direction, and we will be glad to provide you with some tools and resources to help accelerate your journey. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for joining us for episode 2 of the Athletes for Hope and Thrivent Financial Literacy Series. A big thank you to Taylor, Sanaa, Khalees, and Bjorn for sharing practical advice that you can actually use. To keep learning, be sure to explore the Thrivent provided resources available on Athletes for Hope's website or in the YouTube video caption. And stay tuned for more conversations coming up in this series.